Hi, my name's Caitlin Main. I studied at Glasgow School of Art in Aberdeen. I graduated in 2015. Studied printmaking. I have just finished my master's at GSA, specialising in sculpture. My work is site-specific, temporary, flimsy, and I tend to work small scale. Generally make sculptural assemblages made from made and found objects. My practice also includes text, and I made my first film work for Generator as part of the Flesh and Finitage show. So I don't really make much digital work. I've written a piece of text for today, which I'm going to be reading to you. It's quite vague, speculative, meandering, tangential. Yeah, it's sort of descriptive, narrative-based, poetic, so it's not so much a sort of talk as a reading. Touching upon desire, laying your hands on it, tethering, caressing, throttling. Horseflesh, what else is sensual? Elemental and allegoric, a tepid allergic reaction. Tactile memories like a slab of cold meat, a spectre, a hissy fit. Like some kind of cross-species mating and the subsequent hybridity that ensues, I am struggling to untangle the components and features of the digital and the not. It is difficult to chart a landscape with a continually shifting, morphing terrain, and especially one as thickly saturated as ours. And here we are in this treacherous region we must inhabit amid the continual flooding, the constant swelling and onslaught of stuff gushing around us. My practice, in part, attempts to highlight the anxiety induced by this mass, the physical and digital, the material and visual information, each in constant states of transformation, all sources growing continually, rapidly, upwards and outwards in every direction. There is a new type of density, a sheer volume never before seen, never before conceivable. So, we are submerged in a state of complete, seamless cohesion between digital technology and the daily, the domestic, the personal. I began thinking about the insurmountable association between the physical and real, actuality, and our ability to reach out, grasp onto it, whatever it may be. Like rubbing a piece of fabric between your thumb and finger when you're shopping. There's an expression we tell children when we worry about their clumsy digits marring an object. Look with your eyes. How unsatisfying, how difficult we find this. And then, alongside this deep urge to touch, to hold, we have this vast configuration of information that is intangible, floating above our heads like dust or the ether, mythic in its invisible transference, a feat of magic I cannot get my head around. There, that physical thing existing in the sharply focused images on my phone or the lower resolution tableau in my mind, set out, illuminated and glowing with memory or desire or whatever. And we are here and there, spread thinly over two opposing places. We're able to touch, and we're also entirely devoid. We are straddling twin spheres of actuality and a bewildering nonness, almost fictional in its ridiculous, limitless expanse. An example of this intertwined state of affairs, the Instagram account of Michaela. She's a fashion influencer and Instagram model. She attended the Milan Fashion Week in 2018 wearing Prada, presumably a paid partnership. Currently, she has 1.4 million followers and 289 posts. She also has music on Spotify. Michaela cannot breathe. She isn't made of tendons and muscles. She cannot sigh or walk or piss. She can't listen attentively to what you're saying to her, nor begin to lose interest, her eyes glazing over, her thoughts wandering. Michaela cannot desire or touch because she doesn't exist. She is an AI robot, a digitally rendered entity. But what if Michaela could or does desire? What would she be yearning for? What would Michaela's touch feel like? And how would it feel like to her? Donna Haraway writes in the 1984 Socialist Feminist Manifesto for Cyborgs of the species born of technology and human. By the late 20th century, our time, a mythic time, we're all chimeras, theorized and fabricated hybrids of machine and organism. In short, we are cyborgs. The cyborg is a condensed image of both imagination and material reality. I think about a centaur, the material reality of the horse. Hot flanks, a multitude of powerful limbs, a dry mane running down its neck. But a human voice, human eyes sat within a human face, sat atop a human torso. Amy Bonifan's beautiful short story comes to mind. Horses tells the story of a woman and her flatmate injecting themselves with a course of medication. The flatmate is trying to get pregnant, and the protagonist is turning herself into a horse via a revolutionary scientific leap. Only women can turn themselves, and once fully horse, must live out on a ranch, away from civilization, fully wild. Bonifants describes the metamorphosis in tandem with the transformation of pregnancy. One female becoming more domestic, softer, and the other becoming feral, furious, untamed. We imagine the machine. We dream of its capabilities, limitless, exponential. The machine doesn't imagine, speculate, desire. The machine is not anxious. The machine is not seen to be nervous. The machine isn't witnessed hesitating nor wanting. We made it up. It was a feat of engineering, of lucid dreaming. The machine is supple, all silica beads and blue glowing with productivity. A plasticky epidermis. The voice projected overhead in the train and the voice emanating from our smartphones is female. Streamlined, subservient, unobtrusive. The secretary or wife that cannot complain, nag, leave you. She is depicted too in cinema. Scarlett Johansson's smooth, caressing voice in the 2013 film Her, or the alluding humanoid in the 2014 Ex Machina. This is the ultimate form of emotional labour. Service with a smile, and not through gritted teeth this time around. Thank you very much. Performed docility, angelic, giggling, humble. Crow's feet, crocodile tears, a real piece of work. A machine that can clean up after itself. Erasure. Neatly. Wiping up behind yourself after every step. There is no history here, only polished parquet flooring, gleaming under strip lighting. An ugly smear eradicated, exfoliated right from your pores. Cleanliness and the Antichrist in one body, murmuring to each other, simpering flirtatiously. I swallow the foreign entity, and it wraps itself in my esophagus and strangles me from within an alcove of my coarse throat. Gulping, chewing over, worrisome things which reside in the spaces between your teeth and rot them slowly. SD cards and sleek USB sticks, instruments of memory devised from plastic or metal. Hunks of light-coloured calcium, slotted into wet pink gums or inserted into the ports on my laptop. There are substances and forms of consumption which are difficult, cloying, causing my slack jaw to ache, and there are forms and substances that appease my palate and slither down my gullet pleasingly. I easily digest the view of the soft creases of your face, illuminated by the incandescent light from your phone. I swallow it whole, greedily. The rolling passage of a feed beneath my thumb soothes my stomach, eases my nausea, a type of visual drip feed, an ocular IV. There are all different types of sustenance. Force feeding has the stoic and irrefutable reputation for violence. We are hardwired, interconnected beings, tribal, animal, lonely. We desire things and people, and we need to reach out and hold our desired. Being held and holding are two different things, as is being tethered. A cable wound between two separate entities, or now, more likely, the invisible stretch of connectivity. Perhaps the cables, wires, ports and sockets are more compatible to holding. They're becoming obsolete. One day I could be sentimental about such clunky, obvious sources of transference. I feel that we shall always be tuned to signals of touch, though. At times, our anatomy seems so perfectly constructed to record the traces of touches we have received. Our largest organ, primed for constant awareness via a complex somatosensory system. We are a vast collection of nerve endings and receptors. We are primarily made up of 4 types of these receptors. The mechanoreceptors, which inhabit upper and lower layers of skin, along with tendons and muscles, used for the processing of vibrations, textures, and pressures. There are the thermoreceptors, obviously to distinguish temperature, sensations of heat or cold. The nociceptors are for the detection of pain. We have over 3 million in each of our bodies. Finally, the proprioceptors. These provide us with self-awareness, an ability to understand where the components of our bodies, our digits, limbs, are in relation to one another. So it would seem we have been fabricated then to explore the world via touch of all kinds. I grasp, I snatch, I cradle, I stroke. The following is an excerpt from Kit Grover's essay, Car Parks and Perfume. So while we have sense memory, good or bad, my instinct is to say that we may only recall embroidered, enhanced, engraved, enmeshed memories with a broad and complex seasoning of the senses in relation to experiences that we have involuntarily selected in order to remember them for purposes of safety or pleasure. The car is on fire, or you smell like love. I feel that our sense of touch, if not forgotten about, tends to be the sense less spoken of. It seems embarrassing in some way, private perhaps, or somehow less accessible to us than our olfactory or ocular jolts of recollection. Maybe this is because it is literally too close. Our skin so sensitive, goose-fleshed, the little hairs raised up in discomfort. Something raw and tender. Something I struggle to articulate, like there perhaps is an entirely different language which operates through these touches, a language which I am struggling to translate. And despite all this, despite my failures to transcribe, it seems that it is the most important thing to try. I can't really see. The saddest thing I've ever read was written by Karen Barad. You may think you're touching a coffee mug when you're about to raise it to your mouth, but your hand is not actually touching the mug. Sure. You can feel the smooth surface of the mug's exterior right where your fingers come into contact with it, or seem to. But what you're actually sensing is the electromagnetic repulsion between the electrons of the atoms that make up your fingers and those that make up the mug. Electrons are tiny, negatively charged particles that surround the nuclei of atoms, and having the same charges, they repel one another, much like powerful little magnets. As you decrease the distance between them, the repulsive force increases. Try as you might, you cannot bring two electrons into direct contact with each other. The reason the desk feels solid, or the cat's coat feels soft, or we can even hold coffee cups in one another's hands is an effect of electromagnetic repulsion. All we really ever feel is the electromagnetic force, not the other whose touch we seek. Atoms are mostly empty space, and electrons, which lie at the furthest reaches of an atom, hinting at its perimeter, cannot bear direct contact. Electromagnetic repulsion. Negatively charged particles, communicating at a distance, push each other away. That is the tale physics usually tells about touching. Repulsion at the core of attraction. I am thinking about counterbalances and polar opposites. I am thinking about the measurements of justice and lead weights and dead weights. Needy magnetic fields, an urge from your atoms like a gut feeling or fate or déjà vu. Undeniable and felt like my presence or the memory of my presence, which leads me to the question, how much desire is required to conjure physical mass, to give weight and texture and breath to that desire, to make that palatable phantom into meat? How can we measure desire? What devices could be employed? Let me sink my weedy fingers through your fleshy perimeter between your pallid ribs. It cannot be done. Short circuit.